From the VIPIR Proud Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel with the very latest on this weather situation. Right now it just seems like the rain won't quit. There's a never-ending supply of showers and storms. Well, eventually we'll get to the end, but not tonight. That's why we're watching it very closely out there. And you can see throughout the daytime hours, we had nearly 5 inches of rain. This is just, again, for today. Not this entire stretch. Over this entire stretch, we've seen places surpass 15 inches of overall rainfall. And right now, our rivers and streams are pretty much at max at this point. Our bayous are full and swelling at this point. At least a lot of the water has receded for some of the drainage ditches and some of the reservoirs, but the concern is that we've got more heavy rainfall moving into the overnight hours and throughout the morning hours of tomorrow that could still be an issue. And here's the reason why. As you take a look at our exclusive live VIPIR radar, temporarily we do have a little bit of a break out there, just a few light showers and a mist. But the concern is what's sitting just a few miles near the southeast of us, right along the coast. You can see the potential for more rainfall already moving into the Grand Isle area, inching closer towards Houma, and eventually that's going to be sliding further north and further west. And hopefully a lot of this rainfall sits west of the viewing area, a little bit closer to Acadiana and across the Atchafalaya Basin, because right now we don't need rain on the eastern side around Ascension, Assumption, East Baton Rouge, Livingston, Iberville. Everybody's been pretty soaked over the last couple days, and we need a little bit of a break. But when you look at the big picture, looking a little bit further out, what I do want to point out, notice again that conveyor belt continues to pump that moisture further inland. We're going to continue to see those showers, and I think arrival time probably just around midnight or slightly after, and still in the mix. I think some heavy pockets. Am I calling for severe weather? No, the concern is definitely just flooding as we move into those overnight hours. And as you see, again, that mass is rather large moving inland, and hopefully again it doesn't train, which means it's moving over the same area for an extended period of time, because that's what we saw on Monday. That's why we saw so much rainfall in such a very short amount of time, and that's why we had widespread flash flooding and many areas where the roadways were impassable. So here's the deal going forward. When you look at the big picture, we still have the possibility to flood tonight and probably during the morning hours of tomorrow. That's why they've extended our flash flood watch until midday tomorrow, until noon. Our flash flood warning is still in effect until 11 p.m. Potentially, they will extend it in another 15 minutes because, again, we're getting very close to 11. I think they will, just because there is that threat for more rainfall later on this evening. So we're watching that very closely, and obviously I'll update you with that information as that arises. Now, as you see big picture here, reason for that flash flood watch, because there is that potential for another 2 to 4 inches of rainfall out there. Locally, we could even see some higher amounts. Notice the current river stages, and for all areas along the Comeet and the Amite, we're now sitting in minor flooding. We're predicted to stay in minor flooding, but rise a little bit at many locations. The concern is that if we do get that additional 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, well, then the forecast could change. So again, we got to watch what happens over the next few hours, and potentially it could jump to even moderate flooding for many areas, especially around Bayou Manchac. Again, that right now seems to be the troublesome spot, as they have closed Old Perkins Road. They've closed the bridge because of current high water in that general area. So we're watching the river levels very closely. You look at your FUTURETRACK right now and notice that next batch around midnight just south of the capital area, south of I-10 in fact. You can see it kind of driving up towards the northeast. Luckily, and if this model verifies, this is probably one of the better verifications that we do want to see, because over the last couple of days, models have been so inconsistent with the amount of rainfall, the timing, and really just overall coverage. Well, let's just hope that this one does a better job as those storms move inland. That's a good sign that those storms do weaken and somewhat fizzle out by the time they get closer to us. But there still is that potential for rain, even around 6 a.m. as you make your way to work. So what I do suggest is make sure you tune into our news early tomorrow morning before heading to work, or just download our app because it will give you the latest information on all closures out there, just in case. Because again, if we do get some additional rainfall overnight, we could see new areas with some high water, more road closures, more impassable roadways across the region, and you may have to take an alternate route. So make sure you tune in, make sure you follow us on Twitter, because that will also give you the latest information on the current road conditions out there. Now, as we move along, you see more showers out there, but slowly starting to drift further and further west by late morning. And eventually those storms kind of lift across the state to southwest Louisiana and then push back towards Texas. So by the time we transition into tomorrow afternoon, we do move into a little bit of a drier pattern out there. And I think things are looking pretty good moving into the weekend. We'll get back to some sunshine and some nice hot weather moving into early next week. But because of that potential rain tonight in pockets, and maybe the chance for some very intense rainfall rates where we could easily see an inch or two per hour, we still sit underneath an excessive rainfall outlook, which is a moderate category. So the likelihood is still pretty high out there for some flash flooding. You got to remember that we've still got a lot of standing water out there and the ground is very saturated. So any rainfall at this point, I mean any rain at this point, even if it doesn't seem like a lot, is going to cause some issues, because you got to remember that rain that falls in that parking lot goes to a storm drain. That storm drain goes into a small canal or a little bit of a drainage ditch. That drainage ditch goes into a bayou, and then from that bayou it goes to the Amite River, and that's why we are keeping a very close eye on all of the rain this evening. You could still see that possibility of 2 to 4. And again, you just think about it. If it shifts just a hair east, well, then that 2 to 4 could be right on top of the capital area and Ascension once again. Areas a little bit further west, that 5+, probably around Morgan City and near the coastline. So really still a lot to watch. And again, all factors are kind of playing a big role against us. We also have a wind advisory in place until tomorrow, 7 p.m. So very breezy out there, but the concern is that those winds are coming from the southeast, and what that's doing is driving water inland. I'll show you, because when you look at the big picture here, there's a coastal flood warning for Livingston Parish, portions of Tangipahoa, and obviously for the southern side of Lake Maurepas. But what's happening here is because of that southeast wind, it's pushing that water inland, which is currently acting as a dam. That's not a good thing. We want the water from the Amite River to push quickly out into the lakes, like Maurepas and Lake Pontchartrain. Well, when you got that water pushing inland, it acts somewhat like a dam, and what happens, that water doesn't drain as quickly, and it starts to get forced outward from the stream. So it starts to swell over its banks, and that's why we're probably going to see some flooding around Bayou Manchac, Port Vincent, French Settlement, and even near the Maurepas area, where there currently is some minor to moderate flooding in that general area. So that's going to continue to be a concern. So if you do live anywhere close to the Amite River at this point, well, you just better have a game plan just in case if the rain really starts to come down later tonight and heading into those early morning hours. So here's the story moving forward, and I'll just give you a look at the forecast. I do want to point out there is light at the end of the tunnel, I promise. However, tonight and early tomorrow, we still have to deal with the potential for more showers out there and the chance for more flash flooding. But again, we do get back into a drier pattern just in time for the weekend. So one more time, just make sure you download our app. That will give you the latest alerts. Make sure the volume is up on your phone this evening. Make sure you have your cell phone charged so you can hear those alerts. And then tune in tomorrow morning for the very latest on the weather report and also the traffic. And again, that you can find on NBC Local 33 and also on Fox 44. Thanks for joining us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop us a line. We love hearing your comments. Otherwise, have a good night and stay safe.